Have you heard of the lost civilization conspiracy?
Which one?
This is a very believable theory about how ancient books talk about entire societies we just can't find.
Wait, so we can't find these societies that these ancient writers never saw? It's almost like they made them up or something.
For example, the Mayans were said to have 3 huge cities, and we've only found 2, even with our modern technology, which is crazy.
Modern tech is so useless. I mean, I've visited more than 2 huge Maya cities.
This ties in with other theories like the Great Sphinx being older than we think it is, or even possibly being built by another civilization.
Yeah, this totally doesn't look Egyptian to me. Seems more French.
Or even more out there ideas like there being civilizations in Antarctica.
That's what's great about conspiracies. If people say, oh, your theory is unsupported by evidence, you can just invent some new unsupported theories to bolster it.
The titans from myth make up the landscape that you see today.
If it looks like a face to you, then it is a face. Imagination is fact.
I don't have a perfect explanation, but my theory is that these colossal creatures once roamed the earth when the oxygen levels, atmospheric pressure, and celestial bodies were vastly different.
So in other words, a completely different reality.
There was a global cataclysm that wiped these creatures out.
Did the flood wipe them out while they were standing up?
Their remains were then replaced by minerals through nucleophilic substitution.
Nucleophilic substitution? Sounds painful.
This becomes possible with a worldwide flood and then the scorching of the earth.
Aw, he died just before he could eat his gobstopper.
If you could separate a lifetime of indoctrination, lies, and worldview, you might be able to see what's right in front of you.
Wake up, sheeple. You don't need anyone to go over there to take samples and do excavations. You can sit on your couch at home, look at it on your computer from one angle. That's real archaeology.
Is it possible that nuclear weapons were known to ancient people?
And that they produced them to look exactly like the Fat Man atom bomb produced only between 1945 and 1949.
Hear me out. Robert Oppenheimer famously quoted the Bhagavad Gita after the Trinity nuclear test in New Mexico when he said, "I am death, the destroyer of worlds." This is in English, but when Oppenheimer actually said it, he spoke straight from Sanskrit.
And says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
His Sanskrit pronunciation is excellent.
When Oppenheimer was giving a lecture, one of his students asked him if this was the first nuclear weapon, and he said yes, in modern times.
He must have been pretty old.
If you really study the original pictures of places like Egypt when they were found, it really looks like the place was blown apart.
But in very slow motion.
So the idea of a lost Atlantean pre-cataclysm, pre-flood civilization dating back to 12,000 years or more is often understandably brushed off by mainstream academia as we have no hard evidence for it.
How dare they?
However, that's not to say that it's impossible for a civilization like Atlantis to have existed 12,000 plus years ago, leaving no remnants or none that we've discovered.
The perfect crime.
If you want an idea of just how quickly man-made structures can be lost to time, all you've got to do is look at the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And of all 7 of these wonders, only one is still standing, being the pyramids on the Giza Plateau.
Well, except that there are remnants of the majority of them.
Keep in mind that many of these structures are only around 2,000 years old. Add another 10,000 years and a global cataclysm to that, and you'll have never known anything was there.
Yeah, it's not like we found anything else that old.
Petroglyphs up here that seem to depict an entire ancient way of life with ancient people. There's a little guy with his animals. It looks like grass huts. And the river, they're next to these energetic waves. There's animals, portal symbols.
A river, animals, grass huts, energetic waves, and portals. They all go hand in hand.
These look like alien entity beings. This looks like a dude in a spacesuit. Look at this guy. He's got legs, arms, a long skinny neck, a weird head, only 3 fingers on each hand.
These artists were very advanced.
And then look at this buddy with him. Tiny little legs, a big triangular body with horns.
Stark realism.
This guy here is clearly somebody with feet. There's like energy coming up.
People complain I have energy coming out of my feet.
This looks like a Phoenician tree of Lebanon.
I was going to say generic pine tree, but you're the botanist.
Is he a giant and that's a little person?
First rule of interpretation. If you see a fantastical creature unknown to us, assume it is real.
Vimana, described in ancient Indian scriptures, Sumerian, and Egyptian texts.
I think the powers that be buried the evidence for Vimanas appearing in Sumerian and Egyptian texts because I couldn't find a reference to them anywhere.
This is a technological flying vehicle, similar to modern day but with more advanced powers. If anything, it looks like a UFO to me.
And definitely not a modern painting.
What we see is the bell-shaped structure propelled by Mercury.
You can learn a lot about ancient history from other people's imaginations.
Non-Medal. People believe this is the remnants of the ancient civilization and continent of Mu.
People actually believe it. Wow.
Scientists claim to not know how they were able to create these structures.
How these structures were made?
It is said that those at Atlantis had anti-gravitational devices on their spaceships. Maybe they used this to lift the columns.
It's nice the Atlanteans came to help out the Muites. Muians?
Civilizations before us were far more advanced technologically. Many people discuss the fact that you need a chip of bone from the center of your brain in order to clone a whole human being.
I'm pretty sure there's not a chip of bone in the center of your brain.
These are usually actual clones.
Good. I'm sick of all the fake ones walking around.
So too in ancient Egypt, there's many writings about gods would often go through the nose of the Egyptians.
Not too different from a COVID test.
It's of my suspicion that they may have been looking for that piece of bone and may not have been extracting the brain.
So the brain got out through a different route?
The Emerald Tablet talks about Thoth uploading his consciousness to one of many vessels that were kept in the chambers.
The Emerald Tablet of Thoth uses the word upload?
What do you think?
Well, if I want to believe it, I'm better off not thinking.
If we go back 6,000 years to ancient Sumeria, we can credit them with virtually all firsts of higher civilization.
We can credit them without going back 6,000 years.
According to Zecharia Sitchin's book, Genesis Revisited.
Oh.
They were the first to create what we consider today the fundamentals of civilization.
Yeah, giving credit where credit is due.
They even knew the planets before modern-day people claimed to have first discovered them.
That's because they lived before us.
All of the planets in our solar system, what they're made of, and the distance they are from the sun. Here's a closer look.
I'm having a hard time seeing the distances from the sun listed here, and where it says what they're made of. And why are there 11 planets?
Not only is much of modern discovery a rediscovery of ancient knowledge, but ancient knowledge often offers explanations for phenomena modern science has yet to figure out.
So if our science agrees, that means the Sumerians were right. And if our science disagrees, then the Sumerians are still right.
There have been several giant details left out of our history books.
I know. Helmets made of stone can't be sculptures. They must have been worn.
Yet so many people refuse to question the truths that are hidden in plain sight right in front of them.
Look at this. And this. Question the truths, people. These are not only in plain sight, they're right in front of you.
Giants were very much real, and they walked this realm with us. The evidence can be found all around us.
Looks like they're still here. All you have to do is look up.
You just have to open your eyes.
All images in ancient art are accurately in proportion.
And stop listening to the mainstream lies.
Pretty sure that's a statue.
Why would they lie about giants?
Well, obviously to keep secret the goose that lays golden eggs in the castle at the top of the beanstalk.
It's not just giants they've lied to us about. That is just one link, a small link in the much larger chain of lies.
If they lied about one thing, that proves they lied about giants.
These people had a detailed map of the solar system 6,000 years ago that they wrote in clay.
So if I ever need to get to Neptune, they've got me covered.
That showed the sun at the center and all the planets.
Oh, all 11 planets.
In the correct orbit with the correct size. Yeah. Not necessarily like the ratio, but this one's bigger than that one. And
so some are bigger and some are smaller, but where are the orbits?
They had a knowledge of the cosmos in some strange way.
Yeah, in some strange way. It's weird how this contradicts their writings, which say there are 5 planets.
And they also had depictions of these very tall, strange-looking figures.
Okay, so we're off the Sumerians now?
With little monkey people on their laps.
Their daughters?
Yeah. And they had the symbol for DNA, with like the double helix DNA. Yeah. They have that. And that's crazy.
Looks kind of like it if you squint a little.
I think everything we know about ancient human history and ancient human civilization should be widely taught and considered as theory and not fact.
Which it is.
Most of what we think we know about those civilizations comes from either written documentation from those civilizations of that era,
And what would they know?
or historical accounts from other historians throughout history.
And then there's the myths composed thousands of years later. They're the most reliable.
In both of those cases, a level of translation has to be done to understand that information.
Why couldn't they just have written in English?
A lot of people forget how much of the act of translation is left up to interpretation.
Words can mean whatever you want them to mean.
Translating is way more subjective than objective.
SOS estúpido. That means you're exactly right.
The wrong interpretation of a single word can change the entire meaning of a sentence, which can change the entire meaning of a text.
If you can make rubbers mean boots, you can make yes mean no.
And it gets even more hairy when we come across words that already have a subjective meaning, like the idea of God or of gods.
Translation is a scam.
Today I'm going to give you more concrete evidence that the hidden empire of Tartaria existed. Now this empire built insanely high-tech structures.
If churches are known for anything, it's being high-tech.
In Europe, much of Russia, even into the Americas. These buildings were absolutely insane and high-tech, and they have these interesting-looking antennas on top.
Because anything that points up in the air is an antenna.
I'm having a hard time believing that primitive horse and buggy people built these grand palaces.
But yeah, you'd expect them to at least be driving around in Teslas.
Now the interesting antennas on top, it wasn't just for decoration, it had a functionality to it.
If only they hadn't made it out of stone.
And the functionality is to harness free energy from the ether.
You mean the ether's been giving away free energy this whole time? Where's the ether?
Now Tesla himself believed in free energy, and he believed that you can harness free energy from the ether.
Looks just like those churches.
And the idea is that Tesla never invented anything, but he just rediscovered what already existed.
Tesla didn't invent anything. Who'd have thunk?
In the 1940s, an Egyptian archaeologist named Zaki Said Ali discovered a strange viscous material hidden beneath the sarcophagus of the pharaoh Amun Tefnakh.
Mummy juice. It's delicious.
The liquid is known as red mercury. It was created by the Egyptians, has supernatural abilities, and is known to spontaneously create nuclear fusion.
I like my nuclear fusion spontaneous. It's weird how it's known to do this, but no experiments with it have ever been reported.
It is rumored that the substance can tear a hole between our dimension and that of the jinns.
I cast magic missile.
Gifting red mercury to a jinn brings vast amounts of wealth.
The jinn must be loaded.
This substance is said to be a key ingredient to creating the Philosopher's Stone.
Expecto Patronum.
Let me know what you guys want me to cover in the next episode.
Reality might be good.
When we were in Peru, we saw a stone like this. We also saw cut marks like this. The difference is that my contractor did this with a diamond blade saw. Let me show you what they said the Peruvians used in order to get this effect. I don't think they use this. I think there's more to the story. What do you think?
My house was built with wood that has extremely straight cut marks. My contractor, he cuts wood with a large, high-powered table saw. Do you know what they said the builders of my house, which was built 100 years ago, used? I don't think they used this. I think there's more to the story. What do you think?